Hello and welcome to GG Weekend Watch, kindly sponsored by BetMGM with myself, Kate Tracey, Dave Young and Andrew Mount has returned. So we've got the usual trio then back in attendance with a big thank you to Matty Sutcliffe for the last 2 weeks for standing in. Now, hopefully we're going to be bringing you the winners because we had a tough time of things at Epsom last week. We only had the 5 races to go at. Unfortunately, we didn't manage to find the winner as such from any of those 5 races, but we did have the place money then landed from a few of them. I had the 3rd and the 4th in the dash with Looking for Linda at 17-2 and Antiphon at 33-1. And I also had the 2nd in the Derby with Ambiente Friendly. So hopefully we're going to have more to go at then this week with the 7 ITV races from Haydock and Beverley. Mr. Mount is dressed very, very smart indeed. So we won't ask exactly what he's in court for after this, but we will swiftly move on to the races as we begin.
I can play that. I've been to a funeral this morning, Carl, just to like play on your guilt there. You know?
Oh, why would you come back with that?
I haven't.
Thank God, because I felt that thing for a second. Then I thought, oh God, Kate's put a foot in it again. Nicely done.
No, I feel for you guys last week having to tip at Epsom. It was flipping difficult. I mean, like you, I was with Ambiente Friendly in the Derby, finished 2nd after travelling well. And my each way was Sadati, who ran 5th, and I was on 4 places each way at sort of 66-1 and got beaten a nose or a short head for 4th. So yeah, it was tricky. And you know, I listened to the podcast. And I watched the video as well because Matty Sutcliffe is so fresh and young. I like looking at his face. And you two aren't bad either. Yeah, I just thought, thank God I'm on holiday because it was tough.
Oh, well, thank you very much for that. Also, thanks for tuning in on your holiday to watch us lot talking about races. Never switches off. Busman's holiday always for Mr. Mount. But yeah, it was tricky though, and hopefully we'll find some more winners then this week. Now we begin at Haydock with the 150, the listed Achilles Stakes for the 3-year-olds and over 5 furlongs. Living the Dream, available, of course, at bigger prices until we had final bets. Now here's an 11-10 shot heading the way. So, Mr. Matt, seeing as you're back, would you like to have first stab at this?
Yeah, I was against Living the Dream when he ran 2nd in the Temple Stakes last time out. I thought the soft ground was against him, and he surprised me by running so well. He was very weak in the betting, only went down by half a length in 2nd, 8-1. He clearly loves a flat, fast 5 furlongs. He won the Nunthorpe last year, of course, unofficially good with firm ground. His only other run at Haydock saw him place in last year's Temple Stakes. So, you know, with the ground drying out, and dropping to listed company, although he's got to you know, concede weight to you know, 1 or 2 of his rivals, I thought that yeah, Living the Dream was a fairly solid run, about 11-10. Interesting that Equilateral, last year's 2nd, went 3-1 favourite for Victory Hay, doesn't run, and that the owner relies on Democracy Dilemma here. I thought that one might be the one for the forecast, but I'm going with Living the Dream.
Living the Dream then to kick off to a good start, like you say, just to give that bit of weight away to a few of his rivals. And in this listed race, Dave, were you of a similar mindset?
I was, yeah. It looks a pretty good race, to be fair. We're lucky to have Living the Dream in here, considering it is just a listed race, 115 rated. But there's loads of horses in this. It's a pretty vintage renewal if you look at it. 7 of the runners are 103 plus, and there's a couple of them that are 110 plus. But like Living the Dream should win this. 11-10's probably not a terrible price, I don't think, but unfortunately, me and Matty found out the hard way what 5 furlong races can be like last weekend. Believing's an interesting one. I think she's worth a bit of a mention because she does typically run at 6 furlongs, doesn't she? She's going back to 5 furlongs again. She has reared in the stalls a few times and got quite a bit upset in there. So I don't think that 5 furlongs will necessarily be the absolute best for her. But if ever she didn't mess about in the stalls and she actually came over with a bit of a level break, you never know. It might just be that the drop back in trip could help out in there. But she's 2nd favourite. There's no value in there. It's not like she's a big price to bet in a forecast or something. So I would just stick with Living the Dream, and then we'll move on to bigger and better things in the other races.
Wonderful. But before we do so, let's just add the boring trifecta up then for, well, boring hat trick, I should say, for the 3 of us. Because again, Living the Dream, I don't think if you can get anything above even money is any sort of bad prices, or even money, I don't think. Now, we do have to caveat that where every horse, of course, has its price. We're dealing with a 5 furlong sprint here where every single stride counts. And as you said, we saw that last week then in the fastest 5 furlongs of them all. But in terms of this race, it is a cracking contest that we have for a listed contest. But Living the Dream, I thought he would be very, very difficult to beat. I also took him on his seasonal debut. Sent for 8-1 in the end then. So that was sorry, I'm smiling because we're about celebrating something in the background, and I'm going to get back to
Jack Enright's riding in the apprentice race at Haydock, the 205. This is Thursday recording this. He's never had a winner on turf from 47 rides. He's on the favourite. It's trading at even money. I think it's going to finish a long last. So I've bet everything else and done sort of all manner of combination exactas and trifectas, and just bet that Jack Enright's Mount Animate won't be in the first 4 in the 5-runner race. So he's finished last. So happy days. There will be turkey on the table at Christmas this year.
Happy days then. Like I say, holiday hopefully, yeah, paid for in some sort of way, a trip to Devon. But yeah, I've got that over my shoulder. I was wondering what he was cheering for then. So that makes perfect sense. But yeah, living the dream for me as well. Weak in the betting, sent about 8-1 then last time out, considering his Group 1 none thought win of last season. It was interesting to see. Thought the soft ground would be against him, but from what he showed with his early gate speed, look at me talking all American, his early gate speed, then that again he showed on that reappearance, just shows that he is back in the exact same form.
I went through a spell of getting really annoyed with the commentator Mark Johnson. They're in the gates. They're not in the gates. They're in the stalls before. But I've let it go since, you know. And,
clearly.
Yeah, my therapist tells me to talk about these things and just like just relax and let them go. You know.
Well, basically, Dave and I are therapists at this stage then. So, yeah, this is a group discussion. And, yeah, the gate speed, when he gets to the 2-pole, is honestly, I've got the whole lingo down now from stateside. So I'm going to keep it going now just to annoy Mr. Mount. Anyway, we're all with Live in the Dream then in that opener in terms of a win. Anyway, right, Beverley, 205 now. This is a Hilary Needler Trophy Fillies Condition Stakes. 2-year-olds, again, over 5 furlongs for these fillies. 5-1 the field that you've got to go at, Dave, for this one. Not a great amount of information that we've got on hand.
Yeah, that's it. We've got 15 runners there, haven't we? 2 of them are unraced fillies, 5 have just got the 1 run, and I think there's 3 of them that have got 3 runs, so the rest have got 2. That was some really nice on timing from Andrew Mount. No after timing on this show, although by the time it's published it will be. When he's mentioned stalls and gates as well, I'm going to start calling them traps just to see if that can rupture him a little bit before he comes back up. But this is there's not too much form to go with on this race, but there is like bits of intertwining form. There is one performance though that stood out to me last time she ran, and Maw Lam was pretty impressive. She had Mademoiselle behind, who was sent off the 11-10 favourite. Mademoiselle had the benefit of the run. But after a pretty slow start, Maw Lam got like jolted to sort of keep up with the pace. But then I wouldn't say she was keen, but she visibly could have gone much faster than all of these were going. But she just settled at the pace that she needed to go at, went past Mademoiselle with a bit of ease, won by 3/4 of a length. But I think if the jockey had carried on riding, probably would have won by maybe a length. It wouldn't have been much further, but could have won by a lot more had she been sent earlier or had they gone a bit quicker. So I thought that was a pretty good performance. She is obviously favourite in here, but I don't know. I still think that she's a reasonable prize. I think she could be the standout horse from this, off the form that we've got to go from. I do also want to give a mention to Powerful Lady, 16-1 shot at the time of writing. The Irish form doesn't always work out the same.
Writing, this is a podcast.
Time of speaking, time of spreckens.
But yeah, they're an Irish runner, so you've stumped me there. Irish runner, it doesn't have the same sort of like links. When you have like an Irish runner that comes over for the jumps, they tend to be miles better. On the flats, sometimes it seems to be the other way around. But I think the winner bombed out next time out, but the ones that were in and around her, 2nd, 3rd and 5th, I think, all came out and won next time in their maiden. So she's definitely going to come forward for the run. Will enjoy this ground. 16-1 is probably too big, but the only bet and selection in the race would be Maw Lam. I reckon she could be quite good.
Oh, cool. Maw Lam then, 5-1 for Adrian Nichols. He knows how to train a fast one, and she could well be the fastest of the fast in this. Mr. Mount, who's the fastest of the fast?
Yeah, I like Dave's angle with Maw Lam, and I think Adrian Nichols is generally underrated as a trainer, and you know, the fact that she you know, was impressive on her debut despite obviously running green. She's perhaps a bigger price than she should be. This is a really tricky race though. It's very difficult to narrow it down with sort of stats and trends, and the draw doesn't help. A lot of high drawn runners have won this, and the one interesting angle I found when I went down the sort of rabbit hole of looking at stats and trends was that January, February, and March foals have done really well in this. The later foals, sort of like April and May, have got a poor record. And if you just back the January and March foals who'd had 1 to 3 previous runs, that if you'd have found none of the last 10 winners made a small profit at SP, and those who won last time out was 6 from 21 for a profit of 21.75. So there's quite a few qualifiers. One interesting one for me was the Richard Hughes trained Aviation Time. Now, what tends to happen in this race is they go pretty hard, and you can win from off the pace, which is not always the case in Beverley 5 furlong races. And although she won at Kempton over 6 furlongs last time out, I like the fact that 3 of Richard Hughes's last 4 juvenile debut winners have followed up. So yeah, despite stall 10 and the fact that she's 9 to 1, I thought yeah, with James Doyle, a very significant booking, I thought Aviation Time might run a race. I assume she's not going to try and go forward as she did at Kempton when winning that 6 furlong contest last time out. She'll be ridden sort of semi-patiently, get some cover, and maybe switch to the outside. I'm not sure what the watering situation is at Beverley. I mean, we get so many occasions when they water the inside rail and don't water the middle of the track. And you think, oh, you've got to be drawn low, and you've got to, you know, on sort of good or faster ground. They all win down the middle of the track. So, yeah, I thought Aviation Time 9 to 1 might be the one, but it's a really tricky race.
Very tricky. Yeah, always fascinating, isn't it, Beverley, with the level of watering and exactly what information then we get of how that spread of water has been put down as well, potentially to even out that that draw bias. Aviation Time, though, 9 to 1, showing the same colours as Storm Cool as well, but for Richard Hughes. Now, of course, this is an each way plus race with BetMGM. 4 places on offer. You'll probably want to utilise that then, given the amount of unknowns that we have in that Beverley contest. Right, 225 at Haydock, a 0 to 105 handicap for your odds and over a mile 4. These races aren't getting all that much easier. 4 to 1 the field. Maglark, though, is your one who is heading the way for Charlie Hills. Jim Crowley, first time blinkers. Miss Mount, your turn to pick up the mantle this time.
Yeah, I thought this was the hardest one of the televised races. Now, what is interesting, when you go through the running styles of the participants, I can only find one front runner, and that is Maglark, who is fit with first-time blinkers. Last time out at Redcar, over 10 furlongs, prominent, raced wide early. The time before that, the first run since Gelder, 2 keen hold, disputing the second early into. I thought the first-time headgear was just going to lead to a front-running ride. And given that everything else in the race likes to be ridden patiently, I thought you've got to sort of have this one in your calculations, and the fact that, you know, you could get an easy lead. You look through the sort of previous winners. There's so many who've just sort of like raced on the front end in this race and gone on to win it, particularly with only sort of what we've got 9 runners. Now the other interesting one was Knightswood, who seems best in single figure lineups. He's only got 8 rivals to face today, and sort of Joe Fanning's back on board. This one was a close-up third under Jack Mitchell last time out, when ridden patiently, repeatedly denied a clear run in a 9-runner field. Now, although well beaten under Joe Fanning when prominent at Newmarket the time before, I thought that he's probably just going to be in sort of 2nd or 3rd place, and from stall 1, get some cover around the inside. He might be the one at 11 to 2. And the other one was Davina Grace for Ray Guest. Now, she's got a really good record when fresh. First 2 runs each season, never been out the first 3. She returned with a good effort, finishing 3rd on her comeback 15 days ago. Her form tends to sort of tail off after her first couple of runs each season. So she's certainly a sort of a place pot angle in that, you know, she'll still be fresh enough here to do herself justice. But at the I mean, it's not particularly earth-shattering to sort of mention these 3 horses, because they're at the moment they're sort of 4 to 1 favourite, 5 to 1 second favourite, 11 to 2 third favourite. But I'll go for Knightswood. I like that stall 1 draw. I like the fact that he can track the pace around the inside and perhaps come through and pick up Maglark late.
11 to 2, then Knightswood for Joe Fanning and Charlie Johnston in this one. I realise I've been calling Andrew Mr. Mount the entire way through. I think it's because he's been wearing a blazer, a smart blazer.
It's because he's really old and you feel he has to respect it.
I didn't like to say, I don't like to make that point. But Mr. Young, I feel like I haven't given you enough respect to call you that instead. So Mr. Young, take it over.
I mean, I'm in a plain white t-shirt, so I mean, I think you can get away with calling me anything this week, can't you? But I saw the same thing as Andrew did with Knightswood last time out at Doncaster. Definitely, obviously, didn't win, but was definitely eye-catching, having like struggled to find the gaps. Off an unchanged mark of 86 as well, so that's got to be helpful. And the important thing as well was he was actually a half a length second in this same class of a handicap before, Class 2 handicap at the start of the season. He took a couple of starts last season to get his first win, so he's only going to improve his racing. Like I say, he's already had a half length second in a Class 2. He's off the same mark here, eye-catching last time out, so he has to go in there. But it is a really competitive race we've talked about. Andrew's mentioned the first three in the betting. I might as well just add the fourth in the betting in there, Iron Lion, because that was another horse that was pretty impressive again at Doncaster, but that was the penultimate start at Doncaster where he won, I thought, pretty easy, well backed, odds on favourite. Then next time out, so we talked about Knightswood, or Andrew mentioned Knightswood at Newmarket, sort of bombed out a little bit. Iron Lion did the same after, right? Ran a 7-4 favourite last time out. Was in there with a 2-1 favourite. So there was 2 horses taken up 2/3 of the market. That horse went and won readily, won by 11 lengths. That's now rated 100. Iron Lion was just not handling Newmarket at all, became unbalanced. So I'd put a line through that, runs off again off the mark of 88. So while he won off of 80 and he is £8 higher, I think this is a potential good chance for him to do something. It looks like a nice opportunity. Jamie Spencer's on board as well, so I think that's a pretty hasty booking. We saw what he did at Epsom off the front. We know what he can do from the back. So with Maglac taking up so much of the market as favourite and those blinkers, like Andrew said with the pace angle part of it, I know Jim Crowley's a great jock, and these sort of horses you almost reach to say, well, they're supposed to have been an absolute legend of a horse and they've not quite achieved it. There's just too many things that make me worried about him. So I think he's going to get beat, and I'm happy to play both Iron Lion and Knightswood. They're about 6-1 each, I think, when I last looked. So it'll pay about 5-2 for playing the pair. Feels like a fairly safe way of doing it, but it's a mighty competitive race. So I'm glad to see that Andrew said the same at the start.
Yeah, I think all three of us are in agreement with that it is super competitive. So you're both in agreement to a large extent with Knightswood, but also Iron Lion chucked into the mix for Dave. I was between two. Again, taking on the favourite though for me as well, Davina Grace. So please, Davina Grace got a good shout out there. But also Struth, I'm fascinated by the other Johnston runner in this one, where I know he's only getting the 7-day turnaround from that poor run at Epsom in a Class 2 handicap over a mile 4. But we know that the Johnston horses, they can very easily run themselves into form and quite quickly as well. And his reappearance also wasn't fantastic. Now, that was on the back of a gelding operation as well. So he needs to actually prove that the gelding operation hasn't had a detrimental effect on him. So it is frustrating that he's only been dropped £2 by the handicapper for both of those runs. And he may just still be high enough in the handicap. But of course, he ran a corker off of this mark in his final start of last year when he was second in the November handicap on the all-weather when it was switched to Newcastle, beaten a neck. And it was just such a typical round course at Newcastle all-weather contest where if you're up with the pace, you folded. Those who were ridden with restraint came forwards. He did best of those who was ridden prominently. But I like the fact that he's now going Haydock, where his prominent racing style will be far better suited here. So hopefully he's still got enough about him that he can make a mark in this race. I wouldn't be wanting a short price by any means without him. Hopefully I'm not going to get that 12-1. Would be about as short as I really want to go in a race of this nature, but hopefully he's still got enough ability there than he's shown in the 2 starts already this season. Right, back to Beverley for the 240, 2-year-olds again, 5 furlongs. 2-year-old trophy this time around. Dave, hospital pass. There you go. There's another 2-year-old 5 furlong sprint for you.
Yeah, this one I feel like, I mean, I've looked like a bit of an idiot on a couple of the shows, but this could make me look even more of an idiot. I have no idea, in my head in the slightest, how shareholder is as short as 6-4. I don't think this horse is even the mildest bit like bred for this type of trip. It's just, it just feels really weird. Unraised horse in here, right? If you look at the Grand Dam, there's all sorts of staying types. They're all 10 furlong plus horses. Some of them, I think, even went over hurdles. It's just really weird. I don't understand what why is the price, or what's the price that it is. It's just, maybe you guys can enlighten me on that one. We've obviously got some horses, like only a few horses that have raced in here. Regal Gem of the winners, I think, looks the most impressive. And then when you do sort of look at the pedigree, because there's a limit to how much you can look at in terms of form, and they haven't raced that much. He's Got a sire Zuslar. He's producing like kind of 6 furlong horse. So I know Regal Gem's dropping back to 5 furlongs is, but there's lots of horses that have dropped back that was 6 furlong horses for him. Starluff's a nice recent one over 5 furlong at York a couple of weeks ago. Even the last time when that ran over 5 furlongs before was behind Big Eves in a Group 1, only like a length and a bit behind. So from a breeding perspective, Regal Gem should appreciate this. I think as well that Starlust that I mentioned that ran at York actually beat Shareholder's Brother over 6 furlongs the first time they ran. It's just, I'm really bemused with what the price is. So I could probably look an idiot. There's probably some smart people out there that are saying that Shareholder at a top price 2-to-1's a cracking bet, but I do not understand why Shareholder's as short as he is. So someone help me out there, please.
Yeah, Mr. Mount, I think you were putting your hand out there to try and clarify that about Shareholder, but Regal Gem then for a play 9-2 for Dave in this one for the experience to put to good use. But the debutant it is, though, who is heading away. The first time starter heading away.
Yeah, it's all down to money and Wathnan Racing.
Yeah.
We've heard this week how much they've spent on Hatim and others to, I mean, you basically, you look at it, you think, well, have they got more money than sense? Are they an outfit that they want to be opposing in the coming weeks? And you look at it, you think, well, hang on a minute. You know, they've won with 3 of their last 4 first-time out 2-year-olds. The other one finishing second. And you back all their first-time out 2-year-olds, 5 wins from 13 starts, you make a small profit. This one costs €460,000 at the Breeze Up sales. Now, there's an element of, you know, sort of, people taking the Michael and perhaps sort of underbidding and getting a brown envelope job, and but they're paying over the odds for this, as we've seen so often with the the sort of dodgy goings on at sales in British racing. But yeah, you could see it. Yeah, you could see this one bolting up by 5 lengths and being a favourite at Royal Ascot. But at the same time, let's have a look at Richard Fahey. I mean, my goodness, he trains the second favourite Moving Force. He's in fantastic form at the moment. He had something like 7 winners in a row earlier this week, or 6 winners. He's won with something like, sort of 7 of his last 12 runners. This one was a quarter distance winner last time out, when not as well drawn as the horses who finished second and third. He came from stall 7. The runner-up and third was coming out for stalls 1 and 2. So it's just too much guesswork. I mean, because you don't know, so you're like, well, I'll just watch the race and see what happens. So my only thought would be that maybe going forward we should avoid Wathnan Racing horses, and that they are in the more money than sense brigade, and they will be overbet, and they will be sort of starting favourite in and perhaps in the place bottom bets like that. We should take them on. I wouldn't be confident in doing that at the moment.
Yeah, they're costing an absolute fortune. Last year it was a bit boutique, then for Wathnan Racing. Now they just seem to be chucking everything at everything. And most of the time, we're not entirely sure how much they're then paying for the likes of Heart Terminal. But this is on record then for Shareholder.
Have you got a figure in mind for how much Heart Terminal would do?
The one that I'm dreading to think is the Willie Mullins filly. The
one that's in the Irish Oaks. Yeah.
I'm dreading to think she cost, I think, 90, was it, when she was a yearling for Jackie Mullins then? So I don't know how much she would have cost, but I'm fascinated.
Think of Harton like short-headed in an Irish 2000 guineas. Stud fees, you've got to be looking at sort of 4 million plus, I thought.
Yeah, then for the stallion proposition, how hardy he is, the form that he's shown, if they're paying for €60, 1,000 euros, then for the Some Race 2-year-old colt, I don't know. But like I say, they're chucking plenty enough money at it. Personally, I love it. I think the more money, the more investors.
That's what I'm asking.
Exactly. We will all be sporting our blue, beige, orange, and red caps then next week in support of Wathnan. Also, we should just clarify, we have no idea if that's how the auction houses then were working in relation to Shareholder, but it's fun to poke fun at things all the same then in this industry. Of course, all light-hearted though, as we mean it. Right, that was Beverley. Fascinating race there. We got way more out of that than I thought we were going to. Now we're on to the 3 o'clock at Haydock, the Leicester Piggott Filly Stakes, Group 3, otherwise known as Pinnacle Stakes. 4-year odds and over a mile 4. Oh, the betting has changed somewhat. Night Sparkle, what are you doing there? I thought we had a race price about you. Night Sparkle's come in for loads of support now. Join Sapphire Seas at the head of the market. Oh, Andrew, that's taken away what I thought was a bit of an original angle, but I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, this is really tricky. I mean, Night Sparkle was in great form last year when with Michael O'Callaghan, trained in Ireland, but his last 2 wins came at Newbury and Newmarket. Joined Andrew Balding and then bombed out on his debut for the yard, sort of finishing 8th at Donny in the Park Hill, and then a good comeback when just chinned at York 16-1. Now, I'm still not sort of entirely convinced, although she's by Postponed, whose progeny do tend to improve from the age of sort of 4 onwards. There could be more to come from her. The interesting angle for me here was William Haggis's record in this race. He's had 7 runners in the last 10 renewals, 3 winners and 2 seconds. The wins at 9-2, 7-2, and 9-4. The seconds at 10-1 and 6-1. His last 3 runners in this race have all won. Now, Sea Theme hasn't been out this season, but she signed off last year with a modest effort at Newmarket, finishing 9th of 11. But I thought perhaps the track wasn't ideal that day. She won at York and Doncaster beforehand, and maybe she needs a flat track like Haydock. And given that the trainer's record, I thought that was the one. Now, the other interesting one was now I was fascinated by Miss Cantic because she made a winning debut for Amy Murphy at Leicester, beating sort of good Yostic Almubir into 2nd in a handicap when everyone was sort of saying, Frederick Larson's given Almubir too much to do. And then Miss Cantic then goes to the Brigadier Gerald at Sandown and finishes 3rd, albeit in a 4-run lineup, and so certainly acquitted herself well in Group 3 company. Now, if you go back to Miss Cantic's last French run, she was behind Lady Boba, the Rafe Beckett runner, at Fontainebleau in November. Now, Lady Boba was around about a 4-1 shot that day. Miss Cantic was sort of like 15-2. Miss Cantic's got beaten 8.5 lengths into 11. Lady Boba's won very, very easily. Hasn't been seen out since. Rafe Beckett's last runner in this race was a winner. That was back in 2020. And I know maybe the ground's perhaps got against her. Maybe she needs it softer. A daughter of Lope de Vega. I thought she had a squeak here. So I was sort of Sea Theme over Lady Boba without being like massively confident in anything.
Yeah, without being massively confident, but well covered those horses though as well. 10-1 about Lady Boba. Sea Theme is at 7-1. This is an each way plus race. Bet MGM 4 places on offer then with this one. And considering the market shake up already and it can't actually find itself down on a nail down favourite, that probably makes sense to be utilising that, Dave.
Yep, definitely. And I was of similar thought to Andrew, right? So I do like to look at the previous winners of this race. Do you remember when I love to get the national hunt in? Do you remember when the Mayor's Hurdle just first started and you just backed Willie Mullins began Dubail, didn't you? Limini, Let's Dance, or Limini. The key to this race is William Haggis, side by Sea the Stars, and their name begins with C because the last couple of winners that he had were Sea Silk Road and Sea La Rosa, and he's got a runner this year called Sea Theme. This should be 6-4. Not my care, it should be.
Keep your trends, Andrew. Keep your trends. There's the trends we need.
but like in all seriousness, it leads you down a bit of a path, doesn't it? Different directions you can start looking at the races. But like from a starting point, I like to look at the historical stuff. The Newmarket race that Andrew touched on, which he ran there, I agreed. I don't think he really liked the track there. You'll know that this is going to be a major target. So where Andrew said that she hasn't been out this season, which is true, I reckon she's probably just been working the house down there, saving her for this is the first time up. Wasn't at her best at the Newmarket race, but the previous winners I think they both came 3rd in there. So you can tell this has been the route for a while. If you just didn't like Newmarket and that's the case, then she's definitely got a chance. So she'd be one to be going in for. Queen of the Pride was the one that was giving me like sort of Middle Earth vibes when he started running in those handicaps last season. I mean, it's the same sire, isn't it? Same owners, same jockey and trainers. And she's bred to want this trip at least as well. She's the least exposed runner of the field, only had a few runs. Seasonal debut this year was a big step forward. She should be coming forward from that run as well, even though she was a bit green. So I think she's got a bit of a chance, but her last run's form doesn't look that good. Her penultimate start does read quite well, but she's rated the equivalent of what she should be off the back of that. One of the horses behind won a listed race. But yeah, that last one didn't work out well, the form, so it's a bit risky to take her in isolation. So all in a roundabout way, I'm just following the Willie Mullins LLL and going for the William Haggis CCC.
The William Haggis CCC, I like that a lot. That is a good angle into this race. I massively appreciate that all the same. But yeah, going with C theme then. So both of you giving that one a notable nod. I was gutted then when I brought up this race. I thought, oh, I'm getting a nice price about Night Sparkle here. She's the most solid proposition. The market hasn't latched onto that. As soon as I clicked it up, she's joint favourite. Admittedly at 13-2, but I was a bit thinking, oh, goodness me. Other people have seen it as well. But of course, it's wide open. The betting reflects that. But I was disappointed though, I think, on the more side of disappointed with Sapphire Seas at York in the Middleton. And even her maiden defeat, yes, the form was boosted by the winner English Rose, but again, that form was abroad and was boosted abroad as well. Queen of the Pride runs for the Gosdens, and I just can't weigh up their form at the minute. And so when the opportunity arises, a race of this nature, admittedly, she's been pushed out from 11-2 to about 8-1 now. So probably she's getting towards what I would have had her down as at that reasonable price. I thought she was worth taking on. C theme, as you both said, they made really good case for, but it's just the fact it was her reappearance after 4 starts. So I just didn't know what to expect from her. Lady Boba again making a reappearance. So I thought that Night Sparkle was just the most solid one. Tend to expect Andrew Balding's horses to come forwards for their reappearance. Second then in the Group 3 Bronte Cup over a mile 6. That was a scramble of a race, but a really likeable one on paper. And I think that the winner of it last year, River of Stars, actually did give her running in that, and she finished in front of her. So I'm glad to see that she returned pretty much to her best from the Michael O'Callaghan yard, who obviously trained up previously. I thought that she was the one to keep on side. So Night Sparkle for me, a little bit of disagreement with the lads there. As we switch back to Beverley for the 3:15, 0-80 handicap, 4-year odds and over 7 furlongs. Known to chew the field, Dave. So yeah, you just, I mean, to this weekend, Matt.
It's madness, isn't it? 7 races you've got to go out. There's a couple of shorties that will probably go in, but then you get races like this, which are they're the idea of Saturday racing, right? Give everyone a bit of an interest. Be very difficult to put any horse down in here. But I sort of had this between a couple. Now, Trope Power has never won on the flat. You will read that it's won 1 out of 17, but was second. They gave him the race, so he's just never won on the flat. And he's a horse that I watched so many times on the TV where he looks a little bit unlucky. Maybe he's going to win next time out. Which doesn't really like winning. He's got a couple of wins on the all-weather, but I was interested in him last time because he's been doing a little bit better recently. But in that race, there was another horse that was far more eye-catching, and I think I could audibly hear Joanna Mason shouting at the other jockeys in front of her, desperate to try and get a gap, because Eligible was so unlucky in that race not to get there. I mean, it's always like, I guess it's up to interpretation, isn't it, how people look at it, whether the jockeys have put them in a bad position, i.e. got themselves into trouble, or whether they're just a little bit unlucky. But she was sort of switching, the horse in front was wandering about, just didn't get the clear run. Didn't run too bad, was only a half a length behind Trope Power. I thought could run quite well, but it's been dropped £2 for it. It's the most absurd little freebie that they've chucked at a horse I've ever seen. The thing I talked about with Trope Power, he doesn't win very often, and in this sort of like class of race, class 4, the fact that he's never won doesn't matter, the fact that he's not particularly run well in some of the races, but he is quite hit and miss. So if there's like a good horse in this race, I think he's just going to get well found out. I was pretty flabbergasted that he was as short as 9-2, whereas Eligible does have a few wins, been gone on the all-weather as well, but has won a class 4. Last time it won off a mark of 77, which is what it's running off again now. I just think it was very eye-catching last time out. Can't believe it's 8-1. Like you say, there's 16 runners in the race. There's 5 places up for grabs. So keep an eye on the terms in case there's non-runners, because they might reduce it down to 4 places. But I think Eligible will definitely be in the frame. I've got to be careful saying definitely having afterwards. So that's Silky Wilkie. I think Eligible's right for running a big race. The only like negative I can find towards this one is obviously an 8-year-old. He is vulnerable to something that's got loads and loads in hand. But like I say, he's won off of 77 last season. We know that he's capable off the mark. And that last run, they were definitely warming up to try and get a big run into him, and he just didn't get the gaps. If he'd have got the gaps, he wouldn't have won, but he would have finished in front of Trope Power, and he's already £2 better off with that one. So Eligible, top price 8-1, 5 places up for grabs. Thank you very much.
Nice case made. Like I say, another each way plus race bet MGM, 5 places on offer. And I should just go back, so I'm not sure if I mentioned it in Molester Piggott Group 3 Filly Stakes that we covered in our last race at 3 o'clock at Haydock. That is another each way plus race, 4 places on offer in this one. But Andrew, you've got 5 to go out in this. Dave's doing that. Are you going to do the same?
This is incredibly tricky, isn't it? And so you look at Trope Power and one win from his last 13 starts. I think I bet him at York last time. when he finished fifth and he was well back, sort of 10s into 11-2. I couldn't be backing him at 9-2 in this race. The 2 or 3 interesting ones for me were No Name Nicky, 20-1 shot for Richard Fahey and Peter Smith Holdings Limited. So the form, the yard's in incredibly good form, and I think the last 2 runners for these owners have won. What will be a shorter price is 4-1 co-favourite and 8-11 favourite, International Girl and Glistening Lights. Now, so Nona Nicky's got a tricky draw in stall 12, but a strong pace could sort of see her pulled into it out wide. And I want to be against On the River for Harriet Bethel. What I thought was sorry, excuse me. Yes, although disappointing at Nottingham last time out, I couldn't quite believe this one was sort of 7-1 shot. And the one I was looking at was Park Street, albeit she hasn't raced for. He hasn't raced for 245 days for Tina Jackson. Now, his last 2 wins have come at this track. He likes fast ground. If it dries out sufficiently, albeit he's making his seasonal reappearance and he didn't need it last year, I thought with Paul Mulrennan on, if they go a good clip, Park Street, sort of 20-25-1, could sort of sneak into the frame here. I'd have preferred it if he'd had a run. But it's that sort of race where, it's kind of like anything could happen, I thought. So I'll go Park Street.
22-1 with BetMGM as well, then for Park Street. So big price on his reappearance up for that course and distance winner previously. Right, our final scheduled race then in this part of the show is the 3:35 at Haydock. The Group 3 John of Gaunt Stakes for the 4-year-olds and over. Again, 7 furlongs. You know me, I love my 7 furlong contest. So 7 furlong specialists, hopefully to the 4 here, but 5-1 joint favourites between Noble Dynasty or Dynasty. Again, the Americanisms with me nowadays, goodness me. Witch Hunter, though, is also joint favourite. So, Andrew, is it Dynasty or Dynasty, and who wins?
I'm getting Dynasty, one for you Stoke fans. But I put up Witch Hunter each way as the bet in the lock-ins last night, sort of 66-1. Even though I knew that he wouldn't stay, I just thought he might sort of plot her into a place. Now there's the Prix Jacques Lamar or whatever. There was sort of 6.5 furlongs at long term, wherever it is, somewhere in France. Later season, I've kind of earmarked him for. But coming back in grade to Group 3 company. Coming back in trip to 7 furlongs, he was a real eye catcher in a listed company here on his penultimate start when he did best of those to come from off the pace, finishing 3rd. Now it was a big and small field that day. 6 runners: Shartash, Press Leader, Disputed Lead, Pogo led but passed it. Basically, small field, had to be on the front end. It was a really good effort to finish within 3 lengths of the winner that day. Now, there's more pace this time around, quite a lot more pace, in fact, and there's a bigger field, so you'll expect them to go quite hard here. And interestingly, in the last 15 years, we've had 14 renewals of the John of Gaunt Stakes. 10 of the 14 winners were drawn in stalls 1, 2, or 3. So that inside berth, tracking the pace or racing prominently is generally a good thing. So I was sort of drawn to the draw here, if you'll excuse the pun. And looking at Witch Hunter, I thought Blessing might actually, although Blessing's probably best on a straight track, it's not impossible that Jamie Spencer could get the 10-year-old to finish sort of 3rd at a sort of big price. And even Quinault, if they don't sort of like force it with him, he would have needed his comeback run when 8-15 in a handicap at Newmarket last time. And of course, he raced with just 2 other runners down the middle of the track that day, and actually did best of that trio. So he was only beaten 4 lengths. And of course, last year, Quinault, sort of like took off, didn't he, as the season progressed? So I'm with Witch Hunter, big style. And again, I thought maybe play him in the forecast with stall 2, stall 3, Blessing and Quinault. And your friend Ramazan, you were there, Kate, in the Victoria Cup. I know he was well drawn that day. He had a high draw, but he's still consistent. He's not finished out the first 2 in his last 5 starts. He's a course and distance winner as well. And he's not badly drawn in stall 7. Richard Foy is absolutely on fire at the moment, so I thought he had the squeak as well. But Witch Hunter was the main play.
Which hunt are you going to stay loyal to after he did you that turn, like say finishing third last night at a huge price slipped up by Andrew? Dave, which of these has done you a turn in the past and you're going to keep the faith with them?
Yeah, there's been a few. I've backed Witch Hunter in the past before. I think he's gone at a reasonable price. I knew Andrew would be keen, and I thought he probably would be shorter than that. This is definitely going to be a race that will divide opinions, but we can all agree that Pogo's going to bounce out in front, right? Ah, didn't even get a smile from any of you, right? Tough crowd. But yeah, which hunter I do think has got an obvious chance. But Noble Dynasty just really took my eye last time. Was given a stone away to a next time out ready winner. They're rated 100. He's rated 110, but he's since well, that RPR that he posted last time was 117 last time out. 3 from 4 over 7 furlongs since he dropped back from a mile. I know he's bred to probably be a mile or a little bit further, but even before that, before they stepped up in trip, he was 1 win and 1 second. That second's when he bumped into Mutasabet. He reached 120 himself, didn't he? So I know we've got no William Buick. All the Americanisms from Kate in there is because Saratoga's on this weekend. That's where William Buick will be. But I think Noble Dynasty has a chance. I'm a little bit surprised of how the market is, though. I know he's come in for a bit of support. I expected him to be a bit bigger, and I might be nicking a little bit of value in there. So yeah, there's plenty in with chances in there. I would still side with Noble Dynasty, but it would be sort of a lukewarm bet. It would be more a race that I'm excited to watch than to bet in, I think.
Yeah, Noble Dynasty, though, would be the play for you. Apologies for not acknowledging the Pogo thing. You see, it's just a pair of simpletons, really, why we didn't do it. I was too busy doing the direction for shooting out of the gates to be even acknowledging your joke then about Pogo, but nicely done. And at least you brought it up yourself. Now, this betting, again, it's similar to Night Sparkle earlier on, has messed with me because I went through this race and again, I thought it was an absolute scramble. Noble Dynasty, I like that handicap that he won last time out, but for all that it was impressive to suggest that he should be able to compete at a group level, I would still like to see it again before backing him at that price for me out of the handicap company. Witch Hunter, solid 7 furlong specialist, but if you were being really harsh, perhaps he doesn't win as often as you would like for a 7 furlong specialist, where they are so niche that the opportunities are there for them. Flight Plan ran no race on his reappearance in the Lockinge. Tiber Flow, he got, of course, that horrific fall then last time out. He needs to prove his well-being that it hasn't left a mental scar on him for that. Ramazan, I love, sided with him, as you said, Andrew, at Ascot, but again, handicap company rather than group. Pogo ran well last time out, and his horse I love so much nowadays, but there's no guarantee he'll be able to back it up. He may well bounce. And anyway, I could go on in similar style then for the remainder of the field, but I will be here a while. So I started going through, got to the outsider at that time of the field, which was last year's winner of the race, Jumbie. But he's now shortened up to 12 to 1 now from the 20s that he was at the foot of the betting. So a few other people again have obviously realized my thoughts about this. Now we did win it easily last year. He was the 9-4 favorite, though. Didn't go off the boil as such last season, but his reappearance actually wasn't that bad an effort in Riyadh. Of course, he does need to better last time out, but at a fair enough price still on the back of one lesser run, I thought he was worth siding with. But my outsider in the field angle is gone. Right, Dave, anything from anywhere else away from our scheduled?
No, thank you, not this week.
To be fair, we have had a lot of races to go at, Andrew, so did you like anything else?
Yeah, a couple of races at Haydock. Race 5, the 4:10, Big Bertie Bassett, who was a big eye catcher on his debut for Tom Dascombe last year when finishing second at 40 to 1 at Newbury. Now, on his debut for William Muir and Chris Karasik at Kempton last November, he was stuck out wide in the field of 9 runners at Kempton from stall 7, well backed, 4 to 1 shot, never got involved. Gelded over the winter. He returned with an eye-catching 4th at Ascot over a mile. Now, he raced in the centre group before the 2 groups merged, and he did best of those down the middle, finishing 4th. And so I thought coming back to 7 furlongs was going to suit him. And the other one was the 4:45 at Haddock, 6 furlong handicap, and Batal Dubail for Harry Charlton. Harry Charlton's got a fantastic record. Well, so Harry Charlton and Roger Charlton his dad before him when sticking first-time cheap pieces on the handicapper. There's 14 winners from 50 starts, profit of 53 quid. And if stall 14's no problem, I thought Batal Dubail 10 to 1 I can see would run a good race. Now, last time out he ran 4th to Misty Grey at Newcastle on his first start since gelded. Misty Grey, shrank that form when beating Mr. Wagyu into a shorthead second at Epsom last week. That was another one that got away at Epsom. That was absolutely gutting for me, because I love Mr. Wagyu in the sort of June, July period, as you know, and desperately unlucky, the old boy there, just getting chinned. So that form has been franked. So yeah, Batal, Dubai, assuming 14's no problem. I thought would run well at a double figure price in the 445.
Oh, and a nice little shout out mention to Mr. Wagyu, one of the unofficial mascots of this show, and Andrew's pet basically at this stage. Right, naps, that's all I've got to get from you. So Andrew, your nap, please.
I will go the aforementioned Batal Dubai in the 445 at Haydock.
Thank goodness we had that recency bias. Right, Dave, who's your nap?
I don't know. I swore I'd never nap at a 5 furlong, but it's between Maw Lam, and there's a big part of me that wants to get this shareholder beat because he's not bred for 5 furlongs. So I'm going to nap Regal Gem, but it's a tentative nap this week.
Oh, he's gone brave. As soon as you said 5 furlongs, I was like, oh no, I should have gone before him, because I'm going to be really unoriginal and go living the dream then in the listed Achilles Stakes 150 at Haydock / Haydock. Right, that's everything from us on this week's show. A slightly rogue one this week, but great to have the boys back in top order as well. Big thank to our sponsors, BetMGM. A bigger thank you to you at home for watching. Best of luck with your bets this weekend, and we'll speak to you again next week.